Germain Boffrand was a French architect, a pupil of Jules Hardouin-Mansart. Germain Boffrand was one of the main creators of the precursor to Rococo called the style Régence, and in his interiors, of the Rococo itself. In his exteriors he held to a monumental late Baroque classicism with some innovations in spatial planning that were exceptional in France. His major commissions, culminating in his interiors at the Hôtel de Soubise, were memorialized in his treatise Livre d'architecture, published in 1745, which served to disseminate the French Louis XV style throughout Europe. Biography. Born at Nantes, the son of a provincial architect, Boffrand went to Paris in 1681 to study sculpture in the atelier of François Girardin, before entering the large official practice of Jules Hardouin-Mansart. His uncle, Philippe Quinault, introduced him to prospective clients among the aristocracy of Paris and at court. He was employed from 1689 on works in the bâtiments du Roi under Mansart, notably at the orangery of Palace of Versailles and in Paris at Place Vendôme, where Boffrand was among the draftsmen responsible for the first designs and for the convent of the Capuchins. Hôtel de Vendôme. From 1693 he was less employed, and in 1699 he left the bâtiments du Roi to commence work, at first in Lorraine and in the Netherlands, then after his return to Paris in 1709, for a distinguished private clientele in Paris, well disposed towards his audacious innovations, such as the oval forecourt of the Hôtel Amelot de Gournay, that were unthinkable in the royal works. In 1709, he was placed in charge of the interior apartments of the Hôtel de Soubise, where he soon succeeded the architect Pierre-Alexis Delamere. None of his early interiors survive, largely replaced by his spectacular Rococo work of the years following 1735. Boffrand was received by the Académie d'Architecture in 1709. The following year he was among those employed in the additions to the Palais Bourbon. In 1732, he was appointed Inspecteur Général des Ponts et Chaussées and produced plans for restructuring Les Halles. He was a participant in the competition for the design of Place Louis XV, named chief architect of the Hôpital Général in 1724. He constructed in the Halles de la Cité foundling hospital, the Hôpital des Enfants Trouvés. Boffrand also worked for the hospitals at the Salpêtrière, at Bicêtre, and at the Hôtel Dieu. He built a series of hotels, particularly as in Paris, as speculative business enterprises. Of the inventive spatial arrangements in the hotel that swiftly became the Hôtel Amelot de Gournay, Germain Boffrand remarked in his early 18th-century guidebook that one will note some remarkable and daring layouts, which however appear rationally based, providing several amenities. Boffrand's pavilion of 1712-15 that inaugurated the new quarter of the Faubourg Saint-Honoré was purchased and became the Hôtel de Duras. Abroad, Boffrand worked for the Duke of Lorraine, where he was appointed premier architect-A to Duke Leopold in 1711, but little of significance remains. He also constructed a fountain and a hunt pavilion, Bouchefort, in the gardens of the Schloss belonging to the Elector of Bavaria, Maximilian II Emmanuel. In 1724 Boffrand worked on site at Wurzburg with Balthasar Neumann, who had been consulting him in Paris, on the Prince Bishop's residence. His designs were carried out in the main suite of rooms, where Fisk-Imbel detected Boffrand's artistic control in the stucco work by Johann Peter Castelli of Bonn. Among the architects trained in his atelier were François-Dominique Barrault de Chadeville, Charles-Louis Clérisseau and Emmanuel Echiacuta de Corny, the architect of the Place Stanislas at Nancy. Boffrand's two sons collaborated in the office, both dying young in 1732 and 1745. Last years and death. Boffrand's folio, Livre d'architecture, was published in 1745. There are no surviving caches of his drawings. In January 1745 he was elected a Fellow of the Royal Society of London. Germain Boffrand died in Paris in 1754 at age 86. Major commissions. The following commissions of Boffrand are largely taken from Fisk-Kimball: the creation of the Rococo, 1943, in Paris. Hôtel Lebrun, 49 Rue du Cardinal Lemoine, for Charles II Lebrun, the nephew and heir of the Premier Pentadouar Charles Lebrun and a relative of Boffrand's. One of the first hotels particularly as noted and commended by contemporary critics. Standing but gutted. Remodeling of the Hôtel de Mesmer, demolished. Remodeling of the Hôtel de Livre, demolished. Hôtel de Soubise, 60 Rue des Francs Bourgeois, and the suite of interiors. Boffrand's last major work and his masterpiece, for the Prince de Rohan and his wife Marie-Sophie de Courcellin. Housing the Archives Nationales, facade of the Convent of Fathers of Mercy, 45 Rue des Archives, built for the Prince de Soubise to provide a suitable street front opposite his new hotel. Destroyed at the Revolution. Hôtel d'Argenson, 19 Rue des Bons Enfants, built for Mme Argenson, mistress of the future regent, and used from 1725 as the chancellery of Philippe d'Orléans during his regency, when it was repeatedly remodeled, by Boffrand himself about 1743, then by Charles de Whaley in the 1780s. Hôtel du Premier Président, demolished. Hôtel de Broglie, Rue Saint-Dominique, gutted. Hôtel Petit Luxembourg, renovation for Anne Henriette of Bavaria, Princess Palatine, widow of the Henry Jules, Prince of Condé. Much of Boffrand's decoration survives, including the staircase with its coved cornices filled with scrolls and foliage and rounded corners. Transformation of the Hôtel de Mayenne, 21 Rue Saint-Antoine, for Charles Henry, Prince of Vaudémont. Much of the interior woodwork, some of it executed by Louis Jacques Herpin, was removed to the Château de Champs. Hôtel Amelot de Gournay, 1 Rue Saint-Dominique. One of Boffrand's speculative hotels, bought by Michel Amelot de Gournay, 1713. Hôtel de Beauharnais, also known as the Hôtel Colbert de Torcy, 78 Rue de Lille. Now housing the German embassy. Interiors were entirely remodeled during the Empire for Prince Eugene de Beauharnais. Hôtel de Senlis, 80 Rue de Lille. The adjoining hotel, bought by Colbert de Torcy's cousin, the Marquis de Senlis. Bibliothèque de l'Arsenal. New apartments in the Cour de Logis for Louis XIV's natural son, the Duc du Maine, in his position as Grand Maître de l'Artillerie. Palais de Justice. Restorations. Hôtel de Villiers, 116 Rue de Grenelle. Entrance doorway, now the mairie of the 7th arrondissement. In Picardy, Château de Batangles for Louis-Joseph de Clermont-Tonnerre. In Lorraine, Château de Lunéville for Leopold, Duke of Lorraine, damaged by fire in January 2003. Château de Commercy for the Prince of Vaudémont. Château de la Malgrange, Jarvel-la-Malgrange near Nancy, for Leopold. Boffrand gives sections of the two-story Oval Salon in his Livre d'Architecture, 1745. Palais de Rouet, for Marc de Beauveau, Prince de Cron. Hôtel Ferraris, 29 Rue du Haut-Bourgeois, Nancy. Hôtel de Cron, 2 Place Carrière, Nancy, also for Marc de Beauveau, Prince of Cron. Religious architecture: Chapelle de la Communion de l'Église Sainte-Marie, 78 Rue Saint-Martin, Paris. High altar of the Cathedral of Nancy, which had been begun by Mansart in 1703 and was continued by Boffrand after Mansart's death. High altar of the Cathedral of Nantes, Notre-Dame de Paris. Restoration of the rose window of the south transept and the crossing vaulting. Restoration of the Chapelle du Saint-Esprit, cloister doorway. Civil engineering: Bridge of Pont-sur-Yonne, Bridge of Joigny, 1725 to 1728.